football. People try to kick a ball into a net. It's a game as old as, well, the modern version is as old as the mid-19th century. But did you know football has video games? Did you know its most popular franchise, FIFA, is sort of coming to an end? So join me as I play through every FIFA game. Yes, the FIFA franchise as we know it is coming to an end. EA Sports does not pay for the FIFA license anymore, so the games going forward will be now known as EA Sports FC. So it will basically still be FIFA but all in name. The FIFA president says, and I quote, "I can assure you the only authentic real game that has the FIFA name will be the best one available for gamers and football fans." But nothing has transpired from that quote yet, as of early July, which is when I first started making this video. Also, it can be kind of hard to make a game from scratch out of nowhere, so who knows how that's going to go. But in the battle of two shitty corporations, I don't really care who wins. But as a footy fan, I've played many a FIFA game, but not all of them. For the record, I'm more of a football manager kind of guy, but I thought it'd be fun to look back through the franchise. I'd also like to say I'm only sticking to the mainline versions of the series for the most part. So you know, the one named FIFA and then the number attached to it at the end. You know, like FIFA 02, 03, 23, that sort of thing. Also only the main console version, so you know the latest one generally available if it spans more generations, but some did. So you know I don't have to play every handheld version of the game, for example. And as for the most part, I'm sticking to the mainline games, but I will play some of the spin-offs here and there, just get a taste for them. But the main focus of the video will be the main numbered games. Or the video will be too long. So let's start at the beginning. Let's start with the original FIFA International Soccer. This version of the game I played is on an emulated Mega Drive. I'll be emulating lots of games, especially the old ones. I think this is the first time playing this game. I think I did play a Mega Drive game as a kid, but I can't remember which one that was. The OG FIFA only has national teams and has very few licensed players, so a far cry from what the series will become. This game just has some interesting options such as turning offside off. Also choose between action and simulated. I'm not sure what difference that really made, since I couldn't even string some passes together to score a goal. I'm not sure if the game's bad or I'm just bad at the game, but it's fair to say I didn't get on with it, but the graphics, sprites, animation are all very clear and look good for the time. Next we have FIFA 95, which I also emulated on the Mega Drive. When just looking at the games side by side, they don't seem much different, but I had a lot more fun with this one than its predecessor. I'm not sure it's because I understood the game better or it just generally plays better. This game does have a difficulty option, which can help ease me into the game. There's a lot more to do in general with the addition of club sides. Still very few licensed players, but the teams are licensed, or at least they have the names to them. I did mention the last game, but I want to give a shout out to these cut-ins to target players at distance when taking set pieces. It's just sort of a problem the game creates by having a camera angle that means you can't see very far up the pitch, but this game is still much better overall than the original game. Now we've got a FIFA 96. Since this is the first FIFA available in the 5th generation of consoles, so now we get to enter the third dimension, kinda. The version I played was the emulated PlayStation version. I'll be using the emulated PlayStation version going forward until I say otherwise. Yes, this game is in 3D, with a technology called Virtual Stadium, which is just its match engine, which of course reflects that the stadium is rendered in real-time 3D. But it does still seem that the players are still using 2D sprites. But this game does now have commentary thanks to the power of the CD.
Kickoff by Deutschland. Right.
Because the game is now in 3D, we also changed camera angles. Nothing is worth mentioning, the game now has licensed players. Not much to say in terms of game modes. The game does feel similar to past games, but being a different engine does mean it has a still slightly different feel to it overall. FIFA 97, the first thing I noticed when playing this game is those polygons. Yes, the players are now polygons instead of 2D sprites. They also added an indoor 5v5 mode, which is a nice option. I don't feel the core gameplay has improved much since the last game. As someone playing this game in 2023, still feel the franchise needs a lot of work at this point, but hey, they did an option for transfers. It's FIFA World Cup 98. Yes, that's what this year's FIFA was called. Not to be confused with World Cup 98, which is a different game. FIFA 98 is built on FIFA 97's engine. but it does feel like an improvement on that game. But still no dramatic changes from the last game. They did add more stadiums from around the world, which leads nicely into the Road to World Cup mode, where you guide a nation of your choosing to the World Cup. Speaking of the World Cup, we have World Cup 98, the first standalone game from a major international tournament, well in the FIFA series anyway, which will become a long tradition for the FIFA series. The game is not much different from FIFA 98 in terms of gameplay, but with less options, since there's no club teams and international teams. The game is released to cash in the World Cup hype, but there's a penalty shootout mode so you can practice your penalties if you want to. The main mode you spend most of your time playing is the World Cup mode, in which you will try to win the World Cup. There are some things based on games I've not touched on yet that I'll mention now. First, FMV video is available, thanks to the power of the CD, so you can see all fun and exciting videos like these. The CD format does have these two loading screens, which are quite long. As you know, it was the early days of CD games. Next is FIFA 99. This was the first FIFA game that I owned, so there's a little bit of nostalgia there. But yet again, the game does only have minor updates to its gameplay. It does feel a little bit more fluid, but they also took out the indoor mode from this game. The new game mode they added was European Dream League, where the top 20 teams in Europe battle it out or something like that. Now it's time to enter the new millennium with FIFA 2000. Well, not quite, since the game actually came out in 1999. Also, the only ROM I could find was the American ROM, which means I got the American commentary. Which is, well...
The tension building then. Not careful, he might be seeing red before this one is over.
Not the best of situations now. He knows he'll have to be careful for the rest of the match.
Cleared up field. He scored! Into the top corner, no mistake. Some excellent...
But all that aside, there are some minor gameplay improvements, such as an indicator telling you where players are located, so you can pass them easier. It will also change colour depending on how safe the pass is. You can also now press a button during set pieces to pass to a specific player. It's once more that time to go to the next generation, with the 6th generation of consoles, because FIFA 2001 is launch title for the PS2. I'm emulating this one too. With a new generation comes an upkeep in graphics. Now the players look somewhat recognisable, and not just immersive polygons. With these graphics bring FIFA a new authenticity and more licensing, because the game has club logo, licensed leagues, and even the kits are fully licensed and authentic. This is what FIFA will become from now on, as it tries to get ever closer to representing the look of a TV broadcast. What about the gameplay? Well, it doesn't seem that different from 2000, but it did feel a bit more sluggish. Also, no new gameplay modes to speak of. FIFA 2002 emulated on the PS2. Not much to say on this one, but I did feel the game was a bit more sluggish than the last one. They did add lines to show you where players are running, so it's easier to pass to in theory, but the gameplay still feels mostly similar from the previous entries, but it's a little bit less responsive. But hey, they added the World Cup qualification again. FIFA 2003. For this one I'm banning emulation and the PS2 in general, since I'm playing the GameCube version through the Wii's backwards compatibility. First of all, I want to say this game does feel better to play than the previous ones. Not sure it's because I'm running on actual hardware, or the game is just generally better, but they did take a few things out, such as pass and run indicators. Also, you now have to aim your set pieces to pass to players rather than just pressing a single button. But now you can choose your kit before playing. Also, you don't get straight red cards anymore when fouling the goalkeeper. The only mode is a Club Championship mode, which isn't really that new of a mode. Also, playing the game has a better control layout than the PS2 ones. But it does take up a whole memory card, which as a kid made me want to get a PS2 and play FIFA going forward on that, because I didn't take up a whole memory card. We continued the GameCube, but now we'll be emulating with FIFA 2004. They added the button prompt back for set pieces, but now you can no longer foul the goalkeeper. So let's take a moment to pay our respects to this feature that's now gone. Other notes about gameplay, I did find the AI a lot more aggressive. No new gameplay modes, but they did revamp season mode to career mode. Now you can name your manager, have objectives, you can also train your team. You also actually bid and negotiate with players instead of just, if you have the budget, just transfer them in directly. Also, this is the first FIFA game with lower league club teams, well in certain countries anyway. It's time to enter spin-off territory as I take a look at Total Club Manager 2004, which is a management sim, not unlike Football Manager. These EA management sims have had a few names including the FA Premier League Manager in its early days. Later in the series it will also be known as just FIFA Manager. Well, is it any good? Well, mostly no. It's a lot more clunky to navigate than PC football management sims at the time. It's still also clunky compared to console football manager games like the LMA Manager series, which is also on PC but I mostly played on console and it worked fine. The best thing that's going for it is it uses the FIFA game engine for the match engine, but as you can see my emulator didn't really have a good time with this game. You can also link to FIFA 04 and I believe do some transfer data between the two. You can also play a football trivia quiz within the game. Now on to FIFA 05, which we're once more back onto emulating on the PS2. Just like Total Club Manager, there's also some graphical glitches. Nothing much to say on the gameplay side. There is a create a player option. Unfortunately, you can't create a total abomination. Only a slight one. In the career mode, you now have to work your way up from a smaller club. Did you know there are also several different versions of FIFA 05? Well, it's not uncommon for this time period. But I thought it would be fun to look at the last PS1 entry in the series, as well as the first PSP one. First, there's the PlayStation version, which is the first time I looked at the PlayStation version of the game since FIFA 2000. Well, unlike its PS2 counterpart, it doesn't have create a player mode or lower league teams. It's basically just FIFA 2000 with an updated roster. A fate now known as being a legacy edition, but you can once more foul the goalkeeper. So how about that PSP version? This is the first and only handheld version of FIFA I'll be looking at. Yes, FIFA has had handheld versions of the game before and after this one, but for the sake of time this will be its one representation. So also note I did get a bit of stutter due to the emulation. This game, while not quite graphically as good as its PS2 counterpart, it still looks good for its time, especially considering it's a handheld game. Gameplay is not too different from the PS2 version, but it's a little bit less complex. It also does have its own unique challenge mode as something to do. Hey, did you also know? There are other football games besides FIFA in the era of the PS2. There are many other football games not made by EA, but FIFA's biggest rival was PES, or Pro Evolution Soccer, made by Konami. PES is also known by the other names such as International Superstar Soccer, and in Japan it's known as Winning 11. Today it's known as eFootball. But the heyday of the franchise was during the 6th console generation. I can also say back then, and now playing PES 5 now, in terms of gameplay and fluidity, it's better than FIFA in this time period. But it never had the vast majority of licenses that FIFA had, with a lot of placeholders names, especially in England. But I thought I'd give the franchise a brief look in this video, since it's FIFA's longest running competitor. Let me know if you want me to do a similar video on Pro Evolution Soccer games sometime down the line. FIFA 06 is the next FIFA game after FIFA 05, this time playing on the Xbox version through Xbox 360 backwards compatibility. It plays better than FIFA 05 but not as good as PES 5. There were some interesting videos such as a FIFA retrospective, so we can look back on the games we just looked back on.
EA Sports. It's in the game.
There's also an interview of Samuel Eto'o.
Hola, soy Samuel Eto'o.
Nothing new in the way of game modes, but there were some improvements to career mode. You can now choose a sponsor, and you'll also be given objectives and expectations to achieve whilst playing the career mode. It's spin-off time again as we look at FIFA Street 2. Well, the second one? Well, I remember it being better than the first one. This is an EA Sports big game. So FIFA Street is not a football simulation game, it's an arcade football game that has a street football aesthetic. This game is not about getting goals, it's about doing tricks and getting goals in style. You may notice it's 4v4 as well. There are also no fouls, no putting the ball out of play, no set pieces either. There is a game breaker mechanic. If you build up enough points and get the ball to the centre of the pitch, time slows down. If you manage to score a goal in that time, you get 2 goals and your opponent loses a goal, thus breaking said game. There are also some custom pitch and custom player options in the game. I made a big boy. I do wish you could make him more of a freak. You also got some branded boots and kits made in sweatshops. You can also give them a bunch of mid-2000s shitty tattoos. The main bulk of the game is through all the street mode. Christian now invites you to play a game, then you got better character by pumping those stats. When you reach 40 overall, you can start building a team. FIFA Street is a fun alternative to the regular football games. It's easily FIFA's best spin-off. We move on to another spin-off, but this is the first in the 7th generation of video game consoles. It's FIFA 6 Road to FIFA World Cup, the first HD game that is not quite a full FIFA game or a World Cup game. This game is an Xbox 360 exclusive, so that's what we'll be playing it on. I also plan the upcoming games on the 360 until I say otherwise. So this is a cut down version of FIFA to meet the Xbox 360's launch. Well, that's what I'm guessing anyway. You can only play it in international teams, the only real gameplay mode is Road to FIFA World Cup. But hey, the graphics are on higher resolution and are shinier, but some of the models do seem a little bit off. This gameplay feels a bit off too, but they did add a kickback mode. That's something to do during the loading screen, which should be a staple of FIFA going forward. There's also a quick sub which you can do on the D-pad during set pieces. FIFA 07 was the first full entry into the 7th generation of consoles. Many of the graphical improvements carry over from Road to World Cup, but gameplay is more responsive. There are also club teams now, but no lower division teams, unlike previous full titles. But Challenge Mode makes an appearance. Career Mode is pretty similar to 06. Now we got another spin-off, it's UEFA Champions League 2006-2007, the official video game. Another spin-off based around simple competition. In terms of on-pitch gameplay, it plays just like FIFA 07, but with less content. But this is the first edition of Ultimate Team, but it's less intrusive and without microtransactions. I'll try and keep an eye on this mode going forward, but I don't know how that'll go due to the lack of network support for the older games. This is one of the few Ultimate Team modes you can play offline. The other big game mode is Champions League mode, where you try to win the Champions League of course. FIFA 2008 is a game. There are not many differences or additions from the past game. They did add loyalty teams back into the game. The main feature is Be a Pro mode. Each player is one player, so you have to perform in their position. But this is meant mostly for Be a Pro online, which of course doesn't work. There is an offline train mode, so you at least try it out. Mode is interesting as you can mark for your positioning and actions. The game will even give you arrows to indicate where you should be on the pitch. FIFA 09, this time I played it on the PS3 to try and change things up a bit, which was a big mistake. Because the PS3 has a thing called HDCP, which makes it hard to capture direct footage, which is why the footage you'll see is either B-roll or game footage recorded off my phone. But how about the game? Well, the night mode getting the footage kind of overshadowed the game for me. I didn't notice too many changes. They did add creative players back, which goes in great with Be a Pro mode, which now has a single player season mode. FIFA 10 is more of the same, but this time I'm back playing on the Xbox 360, and will be doing so going forward unless I say otherwise. This year's FIFA has even more emphasis on Be a Pro mode. I made an abomination of Pro, but I can't see too many changes to the core gameplay. I think they seem to be putting a lot of work into the online modes, but of course the server's long downflow so I can't really test them out myself. FIFA 11, what's new? Well at first glance not a lot. On the pitch gameplay is mostly the same, but you can now be a goalkeeper in Be a Pro mode. I know it's new, since it says new next to the option to play it. Be a Pro goalkeeper is what I imagine being a goalkeeper is like, and that is like running around in circles until something happens. This is not the most engaging mode for me personally, but at least it's something new. But they also revamped career mode a bit. It now has a calendar system, and you can also now play as a player manager as well. FIFA 12, but this time it's FIFA 12. Well, what's new? Well, in gameplay there's precision dribbling, which means you can dribble better. Well, they also added the impact engine, which improves the physics when players collide. These changes do add some wrinkles to the core gameplay, but it still seems mostly familiar. But hey, Ultimate Team is back, and its first full-on FIFA game, which of course I can access since the servers are no longer up, which is a problem for a lot of features from this era. FIFA 13, as you load into the game, it plays a video which tells you about its new features, which are a match day thing and some kind of unlock store, which of course are no longer supported because they're online. But hey, this game says it's better with a Connect, and the 360 I got for this video came with a Connect. So I plug in and set up. Look at me in the corner there. When you load into the game, it even asks you what kind of accent you have, at least in the English language options anyway. You see, Connect is good for two things: dance games and voice commands. The latter is where this game falls. You can give commands to things like change your formation or other tactics. It seems like a good idea, but I couldn't get it to work. Another thing is, when the game loading, you can now do skill training instead of just playing kickoff. FIFA 14, I'm going to look at two versions of this game. First, the Xbox 360 version, then we're going into the realm of the Nth generation with the PS4 version of the game. I decided to look at both versions of the game, since the graphical jumps between generations is noticeably smaller at this point, and going forward. The 360 version of the game is pretty much the same as last year's one with no major changes. The PS4 version is running on a new engine, but from the match I played it didn't feel that different. Graphically the game is a bit better, but given it a glance look most people probably wouldn't notice the difference. But when you see the character models and look at the lighting, you'll see where the upgrades are. FIFA 15, this time on Xbox One. So what's going on with this one? Well, launching on the game it instantly reminds me that this game is longer support for online features. But gameplay wise not much, but hey, there's new goal celebrations. There's also even more licensing with leagues like the Premier League, being even closer to the matchday presentation as seen on TV. Also they have all 20 Premier League stadiums. FIFA 16, now we're switching back to the PS4. Not much to say from the core gameplay perspective, but we did get a new mode in the form of Women's International Cup. So it's just an international cup tournament, but hey, we got some women's football, at least that's something new. That's not tied to a defunct online. And also now training career mode. It's worth noting feature and even interface wise, career mode is basically what it is in the latest version of the game, barring a few things that will bring up as they're added. FIFA 17 and we're crossing over to the Xbox One. But what's up with this entry? This game has a switch to the Frostbite engine. You can also choose from a set of avatars in career mode when picking your manager. But by far the biggest thing they added was the journey, which is a story mode. This sort of reminds me of the Goal films, but in this mode you play as Alex Hunter, whose backstory is his grandfather was a footballer, and so Alex wants to follow in his footsteps and go pro himself. As the story starts, Alex and his friend are having to go to an extra trial, and hopes to impress so they can go pro. So you do some matches and training, so you make the cut and make it to the top 10 to get a pro contract. You can also choose which Premier League team to join. You also have a choice between gameplay styles when playing the mode. You can either choose between playing as a full team or just doing the individual mode. So you can guide Alex through his journey to the top. FIFA is really needing something like this to give it something new. They also made the wide choice having mostly fictional characters that the bulk of the story can rally around, so they can use actual actors to avoid problems let's say other sports games have had with similar modes.
Is that you have to tune out the noise. Only things that matter is what happened between the lines. Do the work, listen to the coaches, and the result will take care of themselves. Because at the end of the day, it's not about the money, the nice hotel, the private jets. Remember that and you will be fine, okay?
The mode also has some RPG elements. If you get to choose what skills and stats to improve for Alex, as well as a choice of some positions, there's even some dialogue options as well. Now it's FIFA 18. The next two games I'll be playing on the PS4. And look, this is the first FIFA I'll play that has some online functions, but they are ending full support in November. It doesn't mean it's the first time I'm going to look at Ultimate Team since that Champions League game. The aim of Ultimate Team is to make the Ultimate Team by collecting players, through opening packs, transfers, and also loan them in. The best way to describe this is a time money sink. It's hard to get invested since I've shut down support for them, with this one only having months left. But they do have a World Cup mode in the game. You no longer have to pay for that as a separate game. Also the journey returns with Journey Hunter Returns. This continues on for the last game. If you finish the last one, you can carry over your save data from that. If you didn't, which I didn't because I switched consoles, it just gives you default story choices. So like if you play Mass Effect 2 without a Mass Effect 1 save file, you can now customise Alex. I won't go into too many details of the story, but you do start on holiday in Rio doing some FIFA Street. But if we switch over to career mode, unfortunately they've added the interactive transfer negotiations, which involve seeing your manager in person, negotiating with a little cutscene back and forth, which takes ages even if you skip parts of it. The whole system is much faster. After a couple of times doing it, it loses its luster. It's a feature that's still around today, unfortunately. FIFA 19, good news, they're also shutting down servers this game in November as well. I didn't notice any changes on my team, but since it's closing down this year I didn't want to dive into it too much. The journey continues, the Journey Champions. There are now multiple protagonists. You even get to play as Alex's grandfather in a flashback. They added some options to kick mode to spice things off, like different rule sets, things like that. In Kickoff they also added a fully licensed Women's World Cup final, FIFA 20, this time on the Xbox One. The main thing I know about FIFA 20 is they took out the journey, but in its place they added Volta Football, which is a version of Street Football. This will of course bring up memories of FIFA Street, but it's less arcadey than FIFA Street. Also there are fouls, but again it's something different. It also has a story mode as well. It's also worth noting this game will go offline in November like the others, but hey, you can fully customise your manager in career mode now. FIFA 21, and this time entering the current generation since I'm playing on the Xbox Series X, which means the graphics look a little bit better. But as I said last time, the German graphics is not that big, but you can see the difference when you get close up to a player. Volta returns as well as the story mode associated with it, and the servers for this game will also shut down in November. In career mode, you can jump in and out when simming a game. Now it's FIFA 22 on the PS5. There are a few things I want to highlight with this entry. First is the addition of player traits, which means players are more likely to do certain things. Since I was playing this on the PS5, I've also got some haptic feedback as well. One big last thing they added is custom clubs. If you want to use a custom club in career mode, you basically boot the team out of existence and take their place in the league. Custom clubs also have a fair amount of customization. FIFA 23, the last FIFA branded game made by EA, at least in the foreseeable future. Well, how is it? Well, it's FIFA. Nothing crazy to report in the final game. They made some changes to set pieces, also the men's and women's World Cups are both available as game modes. I also has a more in-depth look at Ultimate Team, since it's the latest version, and well to say it's not for me. If I had more free time maybe, but I don't see the point of investing time and or money in something that will probably be closed down within 5 years. And there is a new version of it coming out when EA Sports FC comes out. This game did try to get me invested by giving me a bunch of stuff, packs to open. I mean, I don't mind some gacha here and there in other games as a service, but with most other gas/gacha games, they don't release a new version every year, but the successful gas games have years and some might even have decades of service. So I played every mainline FIFA game. What are my thoughts? After playing their reforms with release, that you definitely don't need to buy every FIFA game. Beyond the roster updates, most editions don't have a huge amount of changes. In fact, most of them only really have some changes here and there. Also, the modern day roster updates could just be a game update instead of a new full game. Another thing is, since EA dropped support for these games kind of fast, also due to licensing you can't buy many past versions digitally, going back to play these past games in the future means that they'll most likely be lacking many features, and they might be fully lost to time themselves. Another big issue is just how much money Ultimate Team makes, which clearly takes time and money away from other modes. It's even worse since you can't go back and play past versions of it, but hey, there's not much choice in football games with the downfall of PES or whatever it's called now. So will EA Sports FC change things? Probably not. It's probably a smart business move to drop the license, since FIFA's really the only game in town now in its genre. I won't be playing it in release since I normally wait for it to become available by Game Pass Ultimate, but I won't be playing any football games for a while anyway, apart from Football Manager of course. Ah yes, the video is now coming to an end. This is a longer video on a different subject matter than I normally cover. Hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching if you have watched all the way through this far, which is how long it's going to be. Next week is going to be a video on Cyberpunk, the anime and the game and things surrounding the nature. Also leave a comment if you want me to do some more football videos since it's not something I normally cover. And like, comment, subscribe in general because I have to say that because it apparently helps. Now there'll be some recommended video, or a recommended video and playlist and things approaching. I'm just going to fan myself with this until the end of that because it's hot and I have to turn off the fan. It doesn't interfere with the sound of this video. That will do it.